Welcome to Your Story Doesn't End Here, the mental health podcast for military and veterans. I'm your host, Rachel, and my mission with this podcast is to be a voice for those who don't have a voice, bring awareness to mental health issues, and provide value and solutions to help make life more abundant. Hey guys, listen up. Before we get into the episode today, I wanted to share with you that I'm so excited to present to you our very first multi-part series happening on Your Story Doesn't End Here. This is not only one episode, but is part 1 of 5. So you'll want to make sure that you catch every single episode, not only today, but for the next 4 weeks after, because it is all one long story. That is right, 12 years, one long story. There's a lot to hear. You won't want to miss out on any of it. So make sure you catch all the episodes and stay tuned for what's to come. All right, we are back with another episode. Today's guest's name is Aneda. She is originally from Des Moines, Iowa, but she depped out of Long Beach, California. She's been in for 12 years next month. She worked at a boutique in Long Beach before she joined, and she is a cryptological technical, if I said that right. She was an electronic warfare technician and now is a signal analyst. She's a fur mom to 3 cats and a dog. Thank you for being here today, Aneda.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm going to let you take it away with your story. And if I have any questions or we want to have an open discussion at all, then we'll just kind of go from there.
Okay. So I joined the Navy on November 10th, 2009. For people that don't know, that is the Marine's birthday. But I joined a little bit after high school, and my first station was my first duty station was NAS Pensacola, and it was for school or NATSI, whatever you want to call it. And my first experience with sexual assault in the Navy was April 2010. And I went to me and my friend were invited to a beach house party. And everybody was pitching money, and we pitched in like $100 each. So we got a master bedroom. We got one of the master bedrooms. So there was a bunch of bedrooms that you could either get, or there's bunk beds, there was a smaller bed, there's a couch. And so we pitched in money so we can have a full size room with a shower and everything. So we would be able, be secluded. And we got there, and it was Marines, Navy, everybody. And everybody, when we got there, everybody started drinking. It was like noon. Everybody started drinking. And at the time, it was before I started drinking a lot. And this was like the thing that really made me go downhill. But so everybody was drinking, and we drank till noon. And I was just like, by like 2-3 o'clock, I was like, I'm going to go take a nap. I was like, I can't do this. I'm going to take a nap, and then I'll come back out for nighttime, And when I went to sleep, I am also a hard sleeper. Like, I'm a rock. When I sleep, dead.
Yes, I know. That's your former roommate.
And so I was sleeping, and then I felt like I was dreaming about something, and I woke up, and there was a Marine who had, because I was wearing a swimsuit, he had undone my bottoms, and he was on top of me, and he was having sex with me. And immediately, like, I freaked out, and I pushed him off, and I went into the bathroom, and I locked myself in the bathroom, and I just sat in the shower, and I cried, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do at all. And I left the bathroom finally and went to go search for my friend Nicole. And I'm not gonna say her last name. We'll just leave it on Nicole. And when I found her, she was actually in a room with another male. And the shitty thing about this was I told her what happened, and she didn't really say anything. She didn't say anything. She didn't do anything. And the shitty thing, though, too, was she had a girlfriend, and she went and said that the guy raped her, so she wouldn't be counted as cheating. And she just completely, like, what happened to me, she just didn't care. She didn't care. And so that was the beginning of my downhill drinking, because I used to drink a lot. I used to black out, and that was the whole thing, was just to forget what happened. And so I ended up transferring to CID Corey Station, because I only had one school at NATSE. I just had my preparatory school, and at Corey Station, I had my A school and all my C schools. So I've been like, I had a total of 5 schools. And so my second one was in November. I went from being like 170 pounds, and it was like the bad 170 pounds. And I got down to 107 pounds in less than 4 months. I was taking these thermos. I changed my diet. I was like eating like a rabbit. I was working out. Like, I was cardio bunny working out. Like, I was doing cardio 30, 45 minutes a day. I was tiny. I was super tiny. And that was the beginning of me having problems with my ribs and my back at the time. And I went to medical, and there was a guy, and he was a ginger. That's one thing I do remember. He was a ginger. He was a Corman, ginger, HM2. And that's what I do remember about him. And he asked me to unbutton my pants. I was in uniform, so unbutton my pants a little bit and pull them down, just so like he could see, like, like the top of like the V area, He's like, I just want to feel around and see if, what's wrong. And there was a female in there. And why I have my pants down, he's like feeling, and then all of a sudden he starts tickling me. And I was just like, I didn't know what to do. I was just like I didn't know what to do. And the girl started laughing, and he started laughing. And I just felt really uncomfortable and awkward. And I didn't know what the fuck to do. And I was like, okay, well, let me put my uniform on, and I'm just going to go back to school.
What rank were you at this time when this was happening?
I was in E4.
Okay.
Because I was a push button. Everybody hates us. But so that means that automatically, once I finished my A school and did time and rate as an E3, I just got frocked. And so I was an E4. And so I am in a very male dominant rate. And 4 of the 5 schools, I was the only girl. And so I go into class the next day, and I'm telling these guys, like, what happened? I was like, this is so weird. I was in maintenance class. I was like, because in maintenance, we had coasties, and I used to make fun of them all the time. And we had coasties, and they would just pick on me all the time too. And I'm telling them, like, what happened to me. I was like, like, this guy just started tickling me, and they're like, what the fuck did you do? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, I was confused. Like, I don't know what to do. And so, they were like, what the fuck? Like, what a fucking weirdo, and stuff like that. But I didn't know that there was a female chief that had overheard what happened to me. And she ended up pulling me into the hallway, and she said that she was a SAPR advocate, and she was a automatic report, and so she reported it. And so that's all I heard. That was it. She took it, she reported it. And well, I did have to go write a report, obviously, about what happened. And that's all I heard. Didn't hear anything else. And so one day this girl, she's another ginger, she is in the smoke pit and she is crying. She is crying. And I'm like, what's wrong? You know, like what happened? And she was another CTT. And so she said that her boyfriend got in trouble and because some girl lied about him. And I'm like, she starts telling me the story, and I was just like, oh, this is me. And so I didn't know what to do. And I was like, I am sorry to tell you, but that girl was me and I was not lying. And she's like, what? And so I explained everything to her. But first off, she wasn't supposed to be dating him. She was a student. He was a staff at the fucking hospital. So obviously he's already in the fucking wrong. And then he fucking tickled me, which was weird. Like, it was fucking weird. And so she, after that, she didn't hold anything against me or anything. And she apologized on his behalf. I never heard anything about him. I guess he got pulled and he couldn't see patients anymore. And he was working some other job. But I felt bad for her, you know, because like she found out her boyfriend's a creeper. Like, you know, so I didn't know what to do. And so that was the second, like my second experience with sexual assault. My third was in May 2011. So there's this guy, and he looks like the leader of North Korea. He looks like him. And he would wear aviators like him all the fucking time. He was just fucking weird. And he used to buy me and my best friend Kelly, like he used to buy us beers and alcohol all the fucking time. All the time. And one day I heard a rumor that he was going around and telling people that him and Kelly were like, you know, getting, you know, friendly. And I was like, there's no fucking way. There's no way. I know Kelly. She's my best friend. Like, no, there is no way. And so I told Kelly, so Kelly was from Indiana, real small, real fucking small, like town, not even like a city. Like she drove me around once, and they're like, we went everywhere in that town in like 10 minutes. They don't even see the doctor there because he's at the bar across the street from the hospital. So they drive an hour to go to the hospital. That's how tiny it is. And so she's very friendly. And I told her, I was like, Kelly, I was like, you need to tell him that you guys are only friends. I was like, he's telling people that you guys are in a relationship. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, Kelly, I'm telling you, you need to tell him. So she tells him. The weekend, like, I cried when she left. So she left before me. And the weekend after she left, I was going to the beach with my friend, and all I wanted to do was bake. I just want to lay out, get some fucking sun, bake a little, maybe put some vodka in a grape juice bottle. Like, that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to bake. And that's what we would do all the time. We would just go to the beach, and because he was over 21, so obviously he bought the alcohol. I didn't. And all of a sudden we get a text message, and he's like, because he's a CTT as well. And Christian's like, oh, you know, we got invited to this barbecue at the beach. And I was like, I just wanted to bake. And he's like, well, come on, you know. So I go. And do you want me to tell you the real story, or do you want me to tell you the story that I told them at NJP?
It's completely up to you what you want to do. I mean,
all right, I'm going to tell you the real story. I'm going to tell you the real story. All right, because I already got in trouble for it. Obviously, they can't go back and be like, you lied. So So the real story was, it was a bunch of CTTs. These are CTTs that I had known my whole time there. So I had already been in the schoolhouse for over a year. We've known each other for, a year. We've been through everything. And well, not through everything, but all the school and fucking stupid shit at school. So there was a girl there, and I remember that somebody brought Kraken, and they're like, "Oh, hey, shots for everyone," and and they knew I was under 21, but like they were all fleet returnees too, so we had a mix of crowd because this was during the time too where they were cross-rating everyone. They were downsizing the Navy, like if you remember when like people were getting kicked out for being like 3 failures, PFA, like just stupid shit. So they were crossing everyone.
Kraken, like the brand of alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounded like you said crack at first.
Oh no,
like,
no.
Oh.
I don't do crack. I'd be a lot skinnier. But no, Kraken, the rum, the rum Kraken. So we're there, and they're like, hey, like everybody wants shots, and we're like, yeah, so everybody's like getting shots and shit. And then they're like one of the girls was pregnant, and they're like, oh, you can't drink. I was like, I'll take her shot for her. And so I take her shot for her. And next thing you know, I wake up, like I told you, like the first incident was like the downhill for me. And so I woke up in some random bedroom. and I had all these missed calls, all these messages, everything. And I finally call, and my friend's like, don't come back to base. I'm like, why? He's like, because North Korea guy, I'll just say North Korea guy. He's in the smoke pit, and he's telling everybody that he's getting you back. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they're like, he went and he took a picture of you underage drinking. And I was just like, what the fuck? And so I don't go back to base. That was a Saturday. So I don't go back to base until Sunday night. And end up finding out because everybody knew me. They call me the smoke pit queen. They call me the prom queen of Corey High. Like everybody knew me. They call me Smokey the Bear. They're like everybody. Because I sat in the smoke pit all the fucking time. EDM, fucking, like I had a speaker, I had my laptop, I had a fucking lantern. Like everybody knew me on base. I was a lot more social than I am now. I'm way less social because of a lot of the shit that's happened. But so I go there, and everybody starts telling me everything that happened. So North Korea guy, so I guess what he did was he left base on duty, and he stalked me on my Facebook, found out that I was on the beach, because at the time I was really stupid, and I would this is when Facebook was just become big, it was 2010, 2000 or 2011. So Facebook was, pretty still new. And he found out where I was. He went there, and he sat, because he used to ride a motorcycle, and he sat there, and people would walk by, and he would offer people money to take a picture of me. And everyone's like, no, I ain't fucking taking a picture of her, because he wanted them to take a picture of me underage drinking. So finally, he just does it himself. So he does it himself. He comes back to base. He photoshops a picture because it was so fucking bright outside. The picture turned out really dark. And he sent one copy to his email, kept one copy on his phone, and he also printed off 2 copies at the Liberty Center. So the Liberty Center ended up being a key thing because that's government property. So so what he did with one of the copies is he took it to the quarterdeck and gave it to OOD. And he's like, this is Aneda. I'm just going to say my first name. This is Aneda. And this is her drinking underage. And the picture is fucking terrible. Obviously, it's terrible. And all you can see is just a yellow can. That's it. And so my friends said that after he went to the quarterdeck, the OOD told him not to talk to anybody, not to say anything, that they would handle it. But what ended up happening is he went to the fucking smoke deck and told fucking everyone, because he's a fucking asshole. And what ended up happening was the next day at the schoolhouse, a chief comes in and he's like, so, how was your guys' weekend? Did everybody have fun? Everybody be safe? If you have anything you want to come and tell me and talk to me, feel free. My office is always open, blah, 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 blah. Anything, if there's anything you need to tell us, let us know. And so the reason why they were saying this was because back then, remember, it's 2011, they didn't say, don't drink if you're 20, if you're not 21. They said, if you drink underage, don't come back to base. That's what they used to tell us. and that's what we would do. And so like I said, it was, not the same Navy that we're in now. And so I ended up I'm running out, and I talked to Chief, and I told him just like a little bit of it, not all of it. And he's like, okay. He's like, let me go talk to our higher ups, and we'll see what happens. So what happened was they ended up pulling me into the maintenance office because I'm a technician. So obviously I have to go to maintenance. And they put me in this tiny, tiny little square. And it was basically, I was having a mini DRB with just only the chiefs and khakis. Well, obviously chiefs, and also the CMC. And that's what it was, because the CMC was a CTT. And so he's a real Southern guy, real accent, like, Southern accent. And they had me in this tiny little box. And every time somebody asked me a question, I was standing at attention, and I was supposed to just like switch, like move my feet a little bit just so I can like turn to see them. So I was just like in this tiny box, and they're asking all these fucking questions, ask me who I was with. I wouldn't name anybody. I was like, I didn't know anybody there. I was like,
is that legal? Can they do that without sending you to legal first?
Technically, no.
Okay. I was like, because I've been through DRB before. And when I went to DRB, I had to go to legal first. So
what they were trying to do was handle it by themselves, keep it in the schoolhouse. But so they asked me all these questions, and finally the CMC stops a senior chief. He was scary, man. He was so scary. He had like icy blue eyes. He had this birthmark on his face, and he was bald, and he had like every warfare device you could think of. And everybody was so afraid of him, but I loved him. But he was scary. Like, I thought he was awesome. I thought he was so cool. But he was very scary looking and very intimidating. Like, when people look at my dad, they're like, oh, he looks really mean, but then he's just like a goofball. So he stops him, and he's like, all right. He's like, obviously she's not going to say anybody that she's with. He's like, I would almost say my name. He's like, Aneda. Well, he didn't say Aneda, but he said, I'm just going to call myself by my nickname that people say me. Sandy, were you drinking alcohol? And I was like, oh no, it was the Master Chief who did this, because I remember saying, yes, Master Chief. And he's like, all right. And so then they sent me out. And then I nervously waited for what was going to happen. I ended up going and talking to Master Chief in his office. And he's like, so you didn't have to admit to drinking alcohol. He's like, you could have said it was a fucking yoo-hoo. Okay, so I don't know if you know, but yoo-hoos are a big fucking thing down there. I don't know if you remember that. Everybody drank fucking yoo-hoos. They are disgusting. If you want to drink like chocolate flavored like medicine, drink a fucking yoo-hoo. But everybody drank them. And so Master Chief's like, he's like, you did not have to say you were drinking. He's like, honestly, you could have said you were drinking a yoo-hoo and everybody would have believed you. And but he's like, I wish we could have kept this in-house, but because of what he did, he's like, the XO and the CO caught wind of it, and they want to know why a sailor would go out of their way to try to fuck over another sailor. And so it went up. And so I was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for my DRB, waiting. And so my DRB comes up, and I was so I used to be in a choir. I grew up singing in choirs. Grew up singing in church choir. I grew up singing in regular choir at school. I grew up being in the fucking show choir. I was in band. I was in musicals. I grew up like being in front of people. This is what ruined me because I was in the choir at my command, or at the schoolhouse command, CID, Corey Station. And my chief, who he ended up being on my boat, asked me what happened, and I told him, and he's like, deny. I was like, what? He's like, never tell the truth. He's like, always deny. He's like, I was like, what are you doing? I was trying to do the right thing. That's what he told me. He was like, well, we'll figure it out. And I was like, well, do you want me to go back into the duty section? Because technically, only people that were supposed to be in band or choir or the drill were supposed to be people, good standing and not shitbags like me. So what ended up happening was he kept me there because I was the only female at the time. And it was terrible. I wish he would have kicked me out because why we had the choir was because we would sing at retirements, and also we would sing at graduations, and sometimes they would pick us for drill to do like I did a funeral and stuff like that. That was terrible. I've never cried at somebody's funeral that I didn't know. It was it was horrible. So every Friday was a graduation, and the people that sat up front, the front pew, was CO, the XO, and the CMC. And I would shake and I would sweat. It was horrible. It was terrifying. So they ended up having me stay in choir, and then comes the DRB. So they did our DRBs. So what happened was they sent me to DRB, but then North Korea guy, they sent him up too because he left base on duty. He fucked himself up. So they send him up as well. And I went first, and it was horrible. They were yelling at me, and it was really scary. They asked me, one thing that kept on harping on. Oh, so what happened? All right. I wrote my report. So what this guy did too was not only report me, but any person at the beach, any person and every person. He sent up every single one of their names. He turned in 30 people's names, 30. And not only that, half of them were fleet returnees. So they were about to get in trouble for failure to report. Every single one of them. One guy actually was on suspended bus, and he got sent back to restriction, and he got kicked out of the Navy because of what this fucking guy did. That's how much everybody fucking hated him. And so it's a good thing that he looked like the leader in North Korea, because everybody fucking hates him too. And, so this guy, when he did that, I had secret meetings with everybody, and with everybody that was on that list, all the fleet returners, everybody. And I had a dead set thing, what I was going to say. And I stuck to that. What I said was, all right, so this is what I said. You're going to laugh. I told them that I went to this beach. I didn't know anybody. I was like, I knew nobody. I just went with my friend. I was invited, and I went along with him. And what happened was, I was like, I saw this drink, and I love sweet tea. So it said twisted tea. And when it said twisted tea, I thought it was twisted with lemon and lime. So I drank it. And then as soon as I noticed it was alcohol, I sat it back down, and that's it. And then I caught a ride with this one girl. I didn't even know her. She was driving people back to base, and so I caught a ride with her. I didn't know anybody there. And that is the story that I stuck to the whole fucking time. Because one thing was, I was not going to have anybody else get in trouble for something I did.
Yeah.
Because that is stupid. Completely stupid. So that's what I said. And obviously I look like an idiot because honestly, I've never tried Twisted Tea since that day. And every single time I go to the store, I really, really, really want to buy some just to try it, to see if it was worth it. Totally worth it, NJP.
I've never tried it either, but it never looked appealing to me. So I guess
sweet
I don't
tea.
know. But I mean, if it worked, it worked, I guess. We all kind of have our own little like versions of like our NJP stories. And it's hilarious hearing the comparisons.
Well, there's 3 of them. So yeah, but so I go up to DRB, and obviously they didn't believe it. They didn't believe that at all. And they're yelling at me, and they want names and blah, 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 blah. But I stuck to my story, and I was like, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. And so then they sent me out. I cried because you're told cry. Everyone tells you cry. Make sure you cry because it shows remorse. But I really did feel bad. I did feel bad because I got in trouble. Obviously, because I got in trouble, not for anything else. But so then it was North Korea guy's fault, like turn to go up for DRB. Thank God I wasn't in there because they ripped him another one. Because not only did he leave base on duty, but he also blackmailed somebody by using government property. Because he fucking used the Liberty Center printer. And then so they go up, and he's in there, and I'm in they had me stand out. Like I was in the hallway listening to everything. And they're like yelling at him and all this other stuff. And they're like, one person's like, if that was my fucking daughter and you stalked my fucking daughter on her Facebook, I would fucking kill you. Like they told him that. They're like, I would fucking find you and I would fucking kill you. You don't fucking stalk people. I was just like, oh, I didn't do that because obviously I was at fucking like parade dress. But yeah, they were like, they ripped him another one, which is true. He fucking stalked me on my Facebook. You have to be some kind of fucked up to do that to somebody. So they, that was it. Like they sent us on our way, and they're like, yeah, you're going to XOI, obviously. So I'm waiting and waiting. And XOI, they're like, all right, well, it's this day. And then they hold off, and then they put it off. And I'm like, what the fuck? I found out they canceled it. So I go to talk to Master Chief. And I'm going to say his name because he's a retired Master Chief, and everybody fucking knows him as they've been to Quarry Station during the time. But Master Chief Hawley, he's not a Master Chief. So he's a retired Master Chief. He has a building named after him on that fucking base. Like Master Chief Hawley was a fucking badass. Super fucking salty. He's like, oh, it's my fun every day to be hanging out with sailors. And you're like, he didn't sound like Herbert the Frog, but he would run like 3 miles every day. He's like, I don't understand these sailors, because he would do like 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and he was like 70 years old. This guy was fucking insane, but he was like a grandpa to me. And so the first time, so when my XOI got canceled and postponed, I was such in a nerve wreck that I went to talk to him. And I was like, Master Chief, I have to tell you something. I was like, I messed up. I cried. And he's like, I already know about this. He's like, I was waiting for you to come and say something. And I was just like, oh, what you did? I was just really surprised. And then he's like, yeah, fuck that. Everybody fucks up. He's like, again, he doesn't sound like Kermit the Frog. I just can't do a guy voice. He's like, I went to Mass 5 times and I got demoted 3 times and I still made Master Chief. He's like, I have a building named after me, and all this and that. And he's like, everybody fucks up. He's like, you're just hanging out with shitty people and stuff like that. And he was very motivating. And he was like, he brought up the thing. He's like, you know why they say you can't be a chief until you go to mass? And I was like, no, master chief. I never understood the whole concept of that until he told me. And I feel like that's something that's died. And I feel like that's why people say we have such shitty leadership, because this is true. He told me, he's like, the reason why they say that is because how are you supposed to tell somebody else what's going to happen and what to expect if you've never been there yourself? And I can honestly say that is completely fucking true, because, and it's like, eventually you're going to hear another first class tell me what to expect at my next DRB. And I looked at him, and he was a 4-year first class. I was like, how many DRBs have you had? And he's like, none. He's like, but I've sat in a few. I was like, that's not the same. It's not the same. So what Master Chief said to me was completely true. And then after that, what I found out was he went and walked his happy ass up to the quarter deck and talked to the CO and XO on my behalf. And so I didn't mention this, but also when I got in trouble, I turned off my phone. I turned off my phone for a month. I was so fucking scared. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to tell it. I felt like a complete fucking failure. And so when I talked to Master Chief, I ended up calling my dad, because I hadn't talked to my dad in like a month and a half. I felt fucking shitty. And so in my room, I could only get service if I was laying down in my bed or if I was in the bathroom. And so I'm laying down in my bed, and I'm like, I called my dad. I was like, Dad, I fucked up. I'm crying. He's like, what's wrong? I got in trouble. I'm so sorry. I'm like apologizing. He can't understand me because I'm like, like ugly crying. And my dad's like, Aneda, you need to breathe. Stop. I can't understand you. You need to breathe. And so I did. And my dad's like, why are you apologizing? I was like, because I messed up, And he's like, honey, like, it doesn't matter. He's like, it doesn't matter what you do. It matters how you overcome it. That's what matters. And so thankfully, my dad was really super supportive. And I had to call my recruiter next, and he told me that he knew it. He's like, I knew. He's like,
Why did you call your recruiter?
Because I don't know, I wanted to talk to him. And so I'm gonna say what the name that everybody used to call him, Tito. So Tito, he's like, so first off, well, before I joined the Navy, I was living on the streets. I was a hoodlum. I got kicked out of multiple places. I got kicked out of my aunt's initially. I was living in a garage once for like a month and a half. Like I wasn't going anywhere with my life. And so Tito really helped me. He used to make pizzas to school because he knew I didn't have money. Like he used to take me to eat. He would bring the fucking government minivan over to help me move place to place whenever I got kicked out, because I was up to fucking no good all the fucking time. And so I called him, and he's like, when I dropped you off at MEPS, he's like, I did not sleep. He's like, I didn't sleep because I was expecting them to send you back. He's like, he had no faith in me. So he's like, I knew you were going to get in trouble. So yeah, I don't know why I called him, but I just called him. And so what we're waiting. And then I end up getting called into the MA's office because this fucking guy, this leader of North Korea guy, this is another reason why, like, he was mad because he thought that he wasn't going to get in trouble in any of this. So he ended up sending up a report for fraternization and said that me and my senior chief were having unruly relationships. Yeah. And put down all these people's names. And the thing that made me mad about this whole situation was my senior chief never talked to me again after this because of what he did. Because obviously, there's a report, like, it was investigated. It was actually investigated. And I feel like this fucking guy should have gotten in trouble for a false fucking claim. So he really fucked me over on that, because he was a really great mentor, super, great mentor. And so I ended up finding out that the reason why they were holding off on my NJP was because I was still in the schoolhouse and they did not want to interrupt my training. So once I finished from school, I graduated and then they set me up. And so I go to XOI, and the XO, who coincidentally I saw on my next command, on my second command when I was sitting there on the quarterdeck, and he's the captain now. And I was just like, yeah, but he goes and asks me questions again, and he's like asking about everything. And then he's like, I don't fucking believe you. I don't believe a goddamn thing you said. And he's like, I don't believe it. And then he gave me 14 days restriction, 14 extra duty, half month's pay as an E3, and suspended us. That's all I got. All I got. So fucking leader of North Korea is up. I also asked him, Whitney, why would you do this to a fellow sailor? And he tells them, because she cock-blocked me.
No way.
Yes. He told that. So I didn't even know that was why. I had no idea why he was doing this, because he used to buy me alcohol. But I couldn't tell them that he bought me alcohol, because then I still get in trouble for underage drinking. So, so that's why he goes and tells them that I cock-blocked him. So he was trying to get me back. So they gave him 14 days restriction, 14 extra duty, and they make him an E3 again. They took his rank.
That's it?
Huh? Yeah. Well, they didn't take my rank. They took his rank.
14 days is like nothing. I remember when I was in A school, there were people that were getting 60 days of restriction for showing up late. So
yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
That's what they gave us, but they sent us to different restrictions, because the only restrictions were the ones on Nazi. And I don't remember. I don't know if you were you in Delta Barracks?
Yes.
Do you remember? Oh, I don't know if it's the same. So when we used to have to phase muster, it was right up front, in the front, and on the third floor up in the front, you could see all the people on restricted, and they would like put their butts out on the fucking windows and all this other shit. They were just crazy. Yeah, you would just see them. They're like they look like fucking psych, like there was a psych ward. Like,
oh yeah, restriction for me was in a completely different barracks. So
yeah, so they sent him to that one, which was way, way, way strict. Then they sent me to the one by aircrew, and that one was the one where I was with a bunch of fucking rebels without a cause, because all those people were getting kicked out. It was so crazy, but we were there. There was tons and tons of characters, which I feel bad, because a lot of them were there because they didn't want to be in the Navy anymore. So they chose to do drugs. Because one thing they don't explain is, if you're in the Navy and it hasn't been a year, you can by all means go to legal and say, and get out for failure to adapt. That is your complete right, but it is something that is not told to anybody ever. The only reason why I know is because, especially after my time at MASS, or all my NJPs, like, you ask me an instruction, I can't tell you where to look. I can show you where to look, but I know it. I know. I read everything. And so I go to restriction, and that was it was fun. It was an experience, my first 14 days of restriction, and then when I come back from restriction, they put me on the quarterdeck as messenger. So I was on the IT side quarterdeck. And as I said before, I was super tiny at the time. I was super tiny. I was 107 pounds. I was real skinny. I like fucking like pretzels for arms. It was just, but so I'm like, so that way it's a podcast. So I was like 50 pounds lighter than I am now. And but also super dainty. And so I go to the quarterdeck, and then comes my next trauma, which was a chief. And I remember him because he was a huge Polak. He was a minesman, and this was when they were phasing out what he was as a minesman. And he had like this fish tattoo on his arm, on his hand. And he used to come to us in the smoke deck and like tell us stories about how he's done every drug in the entire world except for heroin. And he did every single drug while being on active duty. Yeah, he said a lot of the drugs that he got was because that the Navy took them to places where it was available, like opium and shit like that. And so he would tell us this stuff all the fucking time. And he was a big guy, you know, this is a huge guy. Like, I don't know if you know it, like Polacks, they're huge. Okay. So I guess maybe not call them Polacks because I guess that might be derogatory, but I'm half. So, so just put it out there. So he was a big guy. And one day I'm sitting on the quarterdeck, and he comes to me and he's like, you know, Sandy, he's like, your butt would look a lot better if you did kickbacks. You know, just, you know, work out your butt a little, do some like squats, you know, make it nice and round. And I didn't say anything, but I went to my senior chief and I was like, I don't want anything done. I don't want to tell you what happened, but I want to switch. I want to switch. I don't want to sit on that quarterdeck anymore. So I didn't say anything. So they switched me to holding quarterdeck, and they made me OD. I was a fucking OD, and I was the third class. I had chiefs under me. I had first classes under me. And the whole reason why they made it that way was because they said that I needed to learn how to stand up for myself. And I needed to learn how to hold authority and all this other stuff. And so, that's what I did. But one day I forgot, like I got off work and I needed to run and get my dry cleaning because there was Julie's was right down the street and everybody went there. I think it was Julie's. And so I was like, threw on a pair of shorts, threw on my flip flops, ran to get hers because I didn't have a car at the time, obviously. So I walked and to get my dry cleaning. And when I get back, I realized that I forgot my room key. So I go on the quarterdeck and I was going to ask them to unlock my room. But then came this chief and he's like, what are the rules around here? There was no flip flops and my shorts were too short. And also I was wearing a tank top. And he's like, you know, he's like, I saw you walking. He's like, and if I didn't know better and I didn't recognize it was you, he's like, I would have pulled over and asked you how much. And he just went on. And after he said that, I just didn't really remember anything. He told me to go switch into my blues and then stand EMI on the quarterdeck for an hour. And so that's what I did. So I go in the next day into work on the quarterdeck, and IT1, he calls me in and he's like, so I heard something happened yesterday. He's like, what happened? And the only thing he was asking me was basically like, at the time, all he wanted to know was why I had to stand on the quarterdeck. But I ended up just saying everything that Chief said, everything. And I was crying. And he's like, he was such in shock. He did not know what to do. Like IT1 he was a huge guy. He was a big guy, big white guy, like glasses, like buff guy. And he's like, hold up. And he like goes and closes the door. And he's like, well, what happened? He's like, this isn't what I was talking about. Well, what happened? And you could tell he genuinely cared. And he's like, that absolutely should not have happened. And he's like, you know, that he would take care of it. And that's all I know, because I ended up transferring a couple, like maybe like a few weeks or a couple days later, I transferred. But from my understanding, he was about to retire. And that's the whole reason why he was at our command, because he wasn't a fucking any intel command in intel, right? And so they were just having him there until his retirement. So that's another person that nothing happened to. So I go to my next command, and I met them at sea because they were on deployment, and they were in, I don't know, maybe, is it 6 feet? Is Italy and Spain like all that? Is that 6 feet? I think
I
it's
have
6 feet.
no idea. I've never been on a boat a day in my life.
So I think it's 6 feet. And so I was there out to meet USS Mesa Verde, LPD 19. I picked the amphib because I lost my orders. I was supposed to go to Hawaii, but the fucking lady in our front office, she was fucking lazy bum, and she was supposed to put my orders on hold, but she didn't, because I didn't bring a fucking candy bar. Like, if you brought her a candy bar, she would do anything for you, but she was just a piece of shit. I hated her. And so I lost my orders. But I was supposed to go to Love Boat, the Chonghoon. Didn't go to Love Boat. Probably better that I didn't go to Love Boat. So I went to the Mesa Verde, and I met them out there. And it was fine. It was good. Well, because too, I was explained, and it's really shitty that I had to be explained this, but there was a chief that was he was at Corey Station, but he wasn't. He was an aviation guy. And he was there. And after I got in trouble, he told me, he's like, no matter where you go, he's like, you're always going to have a magnifying glass on you. He's like, especially after this. He's like, you're pretty, you're athletic, you're intelligent. He's like, you have looks. He's like, no matter what you do, everything you do is going to be 100 times worse than anybody else, just because you're pretty. He's like, just because you're pretty, that's it. He's like, that's how it's going to be. And so it's really shitty that that's true. It's true. And I'll explain it from I guess I am going to talk about my second injury. All right. So I met this Marine, and I was cranking because, so I guess this is one thing I didn't put on my stuff, but so there's this guy. When I got there, everybody's like, they didn't tell me anything about him at all. They didn't tell me anything about him. And this guy was a fucking creeper. He was a creeper. And one day he starts talking to me about going and buying snorkel gear and shit like that, because we're supposed to go to this port or whatever and go and snorkeling. And I was just like, I don't know. I denied him. And I didn't know, everybody laughed that when they heard me say something back to him, but I didn't know that they were going to let me experience his sexual harassment firsthand. And so he was a piece of shit, because when I got there, I was told by him that he wasn't going to teach me because I was female, and I was a technician, and majority of technicians are males, sadly. And he told me that he wasn't going to teach me because it was going to be a waste of time, because I was just going to get knocked up like all the other females and leave the ship. And so he didn't want to teach me. And the stuff that he was teaching me, he was gun decking everything. So I went and told my chief. I was like, who I didn't know was a fucking tech the whole time, who's a piece of shit himself. But when I say he was a piece of shit, he got kicked off the boat early because he threw coffee in somebody's face at a DRB, they ended up finding out that he was innocent in something that he was being brought up on. Yeah, this guy was a piece of shit. And lazy guy with fat little daughters that look like, what's that girl's name off of Willy Wonka, who eats the bubble gum? His daughters look like that. Two of them. So I told Chief that I didn't want to learn from him. I was like, if I want to go to mass again, then I'll learn from him. But I don't want to go to mass. And so what they do, they sent me cranking because they hated me. And I make friends really easily. And anyways, that guy, that CTT2, ended up getting kicked out because he gun decked while he was a DCPO. Yeah, they did a spot check on him, and he went to mass a couple times. So he went to mass first because when I first got to the ship, there was a huge incident. So a lot of people got kicked out of the Navy because ops, obviously, we like to party. And not this kind of party. I don't like this kind of party, but this is the kind of party that they like. There's an OS that was getting off the ship. And so for his going away, they thought it was going to be a good idea to strip him naked, tie him up, and teabag him in the shower. And a lot of people got kicked out, a lot. And this guy was one of the ones that was in the rack. And when the guy was asking for help and shit, he didn't fucking do anything. So
what year was this?
This was 2011.
Okay. So for anyone listening, this is like before, right? Before sexual assault was like more talked about.
So this was like, when they started, like, so sexual assault wasn't really talked about in the Navy at all. Like my first sexual assault, why I didn't say anything was because they told us at our SAPR meetings that they said that if you were raped or sexually assaulted and you were drinking underage, you would go to mass too. That's what they put out. And so I was deathly afraid of saying anything because I didn't want to go to fucking mass. I didn't want to go to mass because a guy decided to fucking rape me while I was sleeping. That's shitty. That's really fucking shitty. And so for them to take this as big as it was, like, and make it huge was a huge thing because this was also before hazing was like illegal in the Navy.
Yeah. Because I joined in 2015 and I remember like them talking about, obviously I still have my issues with like the culture and the way it is in regards to like sexual assault even now. But I think that you definitely hear different stories from like the early 2000s and, prior to that compared to like what you hear now, because it's more talked about. But like this level of like hazing is just like,
this was like, so for it, because they had it as an open mast too. So everybody who was directly related to the situation were actually taken off the ship immediately. So the first classes, they were immediately like taken off. And so when I came, I was only there like they were still doing the investigation or everything. And I remember because I was cranking when they had the open captain's mast, like they put it on the flight deck and everybody, it was all hands event, everyone. And there's a couple funny things from all of my deployments, but like that one, I didn't go to because I couldn't find my cover. And also I didn't want to go because we were in Fifth Fleet. And this was when everything was going down with Syria. So all our airstrikes, everything, this is what was happening. So it was hot as fuck. I don't want to fucking stand out there. Like no. And so I couldn't find my cover. And so I just sat on my sex. And, but they ended up like a lot of the people that were even just there and that were bystanders, they got rank taken away, which was like completely unheard of. Like when I like nothing like this was happening before. Nobody was getting in trouble for hazing. It was okay. People were still fucking like doing like stuff that happened on the ship. Man, red lights underway. Everyone's gay. So yeah. But this is also, in the like in the Navy, when you could be gay, like technically. So, we had like reach around, I think it was reach around Wednesdays because it was when like all like turned his head and like, I don't know. They were like, there was so much stuff. But for there not to be gays allowed in the Navy, like I feel like now that like you can be openly gay and openly lesbian, now everybody's like homophobe. Back then, there were no homophobes. You want to play red light, green light? We'll play red light, green light. You want to play chicken? We'll play chicken. Oh, now that nope, I can't do that. So it's completely changed. And so that guy, he ended up going to mass that time, but then went to mass again because well, he was a DCPO. I don't know if you know what that is.
No, I have no idea.
Damage control, DC, petty officer, damage control petty officer. But they're not like really the DC men, because there's DC men and there's DCPO. DCPO, you're just like, it's a TAD, and you go and you work for you're the DC's bitch. It's basically like cranking, except for it's for the DC. And so you're doing all the maintenance for like the fire extinguishers and all this like the lights that are there. It's like an F4, like check, and you just like push the button. Okay, it works.
And cranking is just like galley work, right?
Okay, yeah. So it's not, you're not supposed to say cranking anymore. That's derogatory. It's FSA. Yeah. See, back, like that was a huge thing. When they said that we couldn't say cranking anymore, we're like, what the fuck? Like, what? Yeah. So he got a spot check and with the XO and or the CO, one of them, and they were checking a fire hose, and there was no oil on it. And he told them it was because it evaporated. Yeah. So he ended up getting kicked out of the Navy anyways. So that's how much of a shitbag he fucking was. So they sent me cranking because I didn't want to work for him. Piece of shit. Huge piece of shit. And so I went cranking, and then I met this Marine. His name was Travis. and like I used to, even though I worked on days, I would stay up on nights and just to like flirt with him and whatnot. And like one time I drank 24 cans of Red Bulls. Like, yeah, we were like, so back then we were wild. Like one time on watch before I went cranking, I was on watch and we were so tired. We mixed Animal Rage with Red Bull and Jack 3D, the old Jack 3D. And we're like on watch, like, wah, 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 wah. Yeah, it was just insane. We're crazy. Plus, so you have to do things to keep yourself awake because it's cold as fucking combat. It is so cold and it's dark and it's like perfect sleeping weather. And so I met this guy and I don't know, I was stupid and I decided to go on Liberty with these two guys. And one, sadly, rest in peace. He passed away like a year or two ago in a motorcycle accident. And the other one, like happily married, has kids and stuff. And so we go out together, and I was supposed to be the DD because you're supposed to have a DD, and designated non-trigger for people. Well, I guess everybody knows what DD is, but I wasn't driving. I was just walking around. I just thought I should explain. So we go to this restaurant, go to this fancy ass restaurant because we're in Spain. And we go to this fancy ass restaurant, and then one of the guys, he said that he felt sick. And so he's like, well, if you want to switch with me and you want to be the designated, if you want to drink, you can drink, and I'll just be the designated non-drinker. And we're like, yeah, that sounds good. Even though technically we weren't supposed to do that because it was already, we wrote down on the Liberty log that I was a designated non-drinker. So, which really pisses me off because like there's so many people, officers used to go out, all the jails, and they would all get fucked up, drunk, and nothing happened. So there's just picking and choosing. And so, so Travis had work that night, so he wasn't supposed to go out. So what the plan was I was supposed to go out and I was supposed to come back to the ship, and I was supposed to meet him in the smoke pit and then just talk, and smoke. Because back then I used to smoke like 2 packs of Reds a day. I was just huge chain smoker. And when I got back, I was fucked up. I was completely fucked up. I was like blacked out drunk. From what I heard, I was trying to go up to the mess decks with no pants on. I was just, yeah, I was shammered. And I like the thing that makes me mad about some things is nobody ever said anything to me. Nobody, like, you know, but also, like, I just turned 21 on the ship. I turned my first legal drink was beer day. I got really drunk on 4 beers. I gotta go pass out. and and so this is actually like my first legal time to drink. And but the thing is, like, nobody said anything about my drinking back in A school, really. Like, everybody knew I would, like, always get fucked up, and nobody spoke up and said, like, hey, Aneda, you might need some help, you know? And they just, like, stopped hanging out with me. That's what they did. Like, that's just, I mean, I remember one time a girl, like, bless her heart, she's so awesome. I really like her. And I feel so bad for what I did to her back then, because we're still Facebook friends. And I feel so bad because she had never been out to a club. And I know this is a side story, but, like, we went out to a club, and I used to hide my SoCo in my buddy's truck. And so when we went out, I would pregame, and I asked him for the SoCo, and he's like, yeah, just grab it out of the back of my truck, blah, 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 blah. So I did. And I had a flask. I was really smart underage drinker. I had a flask and it was poured in there. But the thing is, he didn't tell me that he switched my SoCo out for 100 proof SoCo. And so I got fucked up real fast because I was underage. And so I would chug real quick and then go into the club and fucking, and then, or sometimes, like, I would take my flask in and, like, pour it in a cup, like, go get a Coke and go in the bathroom and but what ended up happening was, I feel bad for her. I got fucked up, and then I got kicked out of club. And then a police officer, I got banned from the club. I still went back, but a police officer was, like, asking me my name. She was telling the cops all my information, like, oh, she's 5'4", she's got hazelnut, like, everything. told him everything. Yeah. And then she had a fireman carry me to a taxi, and then the fireman carried me back. Yeah. I felt so bad. And I found out that all this stuff because somebody was telling me that she was crying in the smoke pit, talking to her boyfriend, her now husband, that had already left our training command for his next duty station. And she cried. And I felt so bad. But yeah, so I wish looking back that somebody would have said something. I know that a lot of people don't always listen to that stuff, but I really needed help. And so back to the story. So I go out and I come back. Travis, he ended up going out, he ended up getting drunk. And all I remember was calling his birthing over and over and over again. And they're like, oh, he's passed out, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I need to talk to Travis. And they kept telling me he's passed out. And then I remember going down to his birthing, and I knocked, and I was like, I need to talk to Travis. And they're like, he's passed out. And I'm like, well, show me his rack. And another Marine took me to his rack. And I remember trying to wake him up, and I was really drunk. And then I passed out on the floor. Well, coincidentally, Travis had work the next day, and a Lance Corporal came to wake him up, and I was there. I was fully clothed though, but I was there, and I was completely ashamed, and I hid. I went and I found a hiding spot and I hid. And I remember my name being called over the 1MC over and over again. And I didn't come out. And so I ended up going finally, and I go to see my senior chief, and he asked me what happened. And I told him what happened. And then what he tells me is he ends up sharing his story. And he was a CS. And Chief ends up telling me his story about how he cheated on his wife and how sometimes you just have to come clean with what happened. Yeah. And he did. He's like, when I was in the Navy, I was not faithful to my wife and blah, 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 blah. And he had to come clean. And he's like, sometimes you just have to take accountability. And thankfully, I've had some really, really good mentors throughout my Navy career, because I probably wouldn't be here. So I end up going to the MA and having to write a report. And I guess, so everybody already knew. Everybody already knew on the fucking mess decks and stuff. And I guess the Lance Corporal who went and told them, I guess he got in trouble because they had told him when he went and he told the a sergeant of the berthing, they told him not to say anything. They told him, don't say anything. They were going to try to handle it on their own. But again, since everybody knew, they had to do something about it. And I went up and I obviously went to captain's mast, and I got 30 days restriction, 30 days extra duty, suspend a bust, and half month's pay times 2, which was a lot of money. So, so I do my restriction and everything. And everybody used to sing. This is like the year that I don't know if you remember the song Rack City Bitch. So they used to sing that to me, rack city bitch, because I got caught in somebody else's rack.
Stupid.
Yeah. But it sucked though, because we were about to come back from deployment, because it was their longest deployment. It was an 11.5 deployment, and they were trying to show that it was a testing phase to show that a bad arg, or because I was on a bad arg, with Mewtwo, I was on a bad arg with Mewtwo 2, and they were trying to show that that ships can sustain out to sea for long periods of time. But I only did 6 months of the deployment, and it sucked though, because when we came back, everybody got to leave and everybody had a homecoming, and I didn't. And so I cried. And thankfully though, they told me I didn't have to go and stand out in my blues or anything, because they knew the situation. And I stayed on the ship. And the one thing that sucked about the whole situation was, and this is why I say what that chief told me about how, like, things, when people do different things, it's 1,000 times worse, because there was a CTM 3, and everybody called her my arch nemesis because she was Polish as well. And she was married. And she got caught having an affair with a beachmaster. And nothing happened. Nothing happened. The only thing that she had to do was every space that she went or wherever she had to go, she had to check in and call and check in with Cess. And that was it. She didn't get in trouble for it. Nothing. And so that really proved to me that it really depends on who you are for things to actually happen. And it sucked, because she did the same exact thing as me. She was fucking married, and nothing.
Was there like a rank difference, or what? Why do you think? Why do you think that it was different?
She was a favorite, and she was definitely a favorite, and she was a CTM, which we've always in our community we call CTMs unicorns, because there's not very many of them. But she was also a piece of shit, and she didn't know shit. But she was favored a lot. And she was just a huge kiss ass. There are so many reasons why they called her my arch nemesis. Like, one time, I told one of the guys that I was going to dye my hair, and I was like, yeah, because I used to do reds all the time, different reds. And the next week on Monday, I came in and we're at quarters, and they're like, oh, I like your hair. And I was like, thank you. And she said, thank you at the same time. And I looked over, and she has the same fucking hair color as me. I was so fucking mad. Ended up finding out that the guy that I told that I was going to dye my hair, she actually had him go buy hair dye for her. And he purposely did it on purpose. because everybody thought it was funny. Everybody thought it was funny. And so it was just like, even we had these, because we had InServe, and we had these guys come from TGU, and they were doing an inspection, and they were so funny. And one of them was telling me, he's like, "Hey," he's like, "is there something up with you and that girl?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a long story." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Well, because," he's like, "I was in the ops office, and I swore it was you that came into the ops office, and it was her." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were Sandy." He's like, you guys, you look like her." And she's like, "No, she looks like me." And he was like, "I'm sorry." Like, she hated me. She was a big sleut, to say the least. Obviously, she cheated on her husband, and there's tons of background on her. But she ended up marrying the dude she had an affair on. But after she had an affair with multiple people with him, on him, and so I ended up going restriction, and then I obviously I went to rehab.
Hey everyone, Rachel here. Thanks so much for tuning in for part 1 of 5 of this incredible story. Make sure that you tune in next week for part 2, and then the following weeks for the rest of the story. Thank you again. You guys are amazing for supporting this podcast. Catch you next week. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen in today. Each week, I'll be bringing you value in the mental health space and its direct impact on service members and veterans. If you feel you personally got value today from this episode, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a 5-star rating and review and share this to your audience. Until next time, remember, your story matters, your mental health matters, and your story doesn't end here.